Thank you, Dad. And we're a bit adding to what Khales has said for different parts of Yugoslavia. So I'll finish probably complete with the last part, what is today North Macedonia, and also about Northern Greece, because these two areas, these two territories were under the same rule during the war and the Bulgarian occupation. So I'll see how this rule affected actually the Jewish communities in these places during the war. And my presentation will have more or less two parts. The first one will be more informative, and the second one will touch upon a discussion, present-day discussion on the involvement of the Bulgarian state in the Holocaust in Greece and former Yugoslavia. And in order to understand the Holocaust in these territories, we have to see what the Bulgarian policy during the war was, exactly because we are speaking of territories under Bulgarian occupation. And Bulgaria started being close to Germany already in the 30s with a lot of economic ties, of course, as the rest of the Balkan countries, probably the closest to Germany, but really the Bulgarian government was pro-German from the beginning of 1940, when this person, Bogdan Filov, became prime minister, a very pro-German politician, although he was a brilliant archaeologist, but still he will be probably more remembered as the pro-German prime minister of Bulgaria during the war. Of course, the Bulgarian king on the left had very close ties, cordial ties with Hitler. And the beginning of the anti-Jewish policies in Bulgaria started already before Bulgaria really tied itself formally with Germany, when in the 40s, the Bulgarian parliament was discussing the so-called law for the protection of the nation, which was actually the basis of the anti-Jewish legislation. It was voted and accepted in the parliament at the end of 1940 and formally signed by King Boris in the beginning of 41. And it was, of course, based very much on the Nuremberg laws, anti-Jewish legislation in Germany, and you can see that there were many restrictions on the Jews, which actually set, this law says, the stage for socially and economically marginalization of the Jews in the Bulgarian kingdom. And also very important, and I'll return to this a bit more later, this law forbade the Jews from becoming Bulgarian citizens, and it's very important, and we'll see why. So, on 1st of March, Bulgaria had joined officially the tripartite pact with Germany and Italy, and had allowed German troops to cross Bulgarian territory in their assault against Yugoslav and Greek kingdoms. And you can see the partition of both Greece between Bulgaria, Germany, and Italy, and of course another map of what Michal was showing us earlier, the partition of former Yugoslavia, when what is today Northern Macedonia here was under Bulgarian rule since April 41. So with this is the map of Bulgaria after all the territorial gains, both previously northern part of Dobruja in the north that was ceded by Romania to Bulgaria, and the occupation of the territories in Yugoslavia and in Greece. So Bulgaria territory increased by almost 50% and the population by almost 30%. So you can see that it's a big growth of the territory on this. And actually, since then, since April 1941, the Bulgarian army and administration began to settle in these territories. And the mutual interest between Bulgaria and Germany to actually conquer these territories but ceded them to Bulgaria was obvious, because the Reich, Germany could free their troops to other places. And of course, for Bulgaria, it gave opportunity to receive territories for long-coveted territories. Immediately in these territories, anti-Semitic legislation from Bulgaria was introduced. Of course, already in October, we see enforcement of the anti-Jewish laws and measures in Northern Macedonia, what is today, and in Northern Greece. Of course, Jews had some economical restrictions, some movement restrictions, etc., etc. And again, what is important very much is a new stage in the anti-Jewish legislation, both in Bulgaria, in the new territory, the so-called new lands. It's in the summer of 1942. So there are two very important things in 1942. The first one is in June, beginning of June 42, and it's so-called regulations for the citizenship in the territories liberated in 41. And this is actually very important because actually, again, formally excluded the Jews in these territories from the opportunity of becoming Bulgarian citizens. And I will return at the end of this, because today there is a big discussion exactly why these Jews could not be saved as it happened to the Bulgarian community, and it's a very important part of the discussion. The other thing is, again, in July, August 42, there are new anti-Jewish measures in Bulgaria, which actually became more formal with the decision of the parliament that approved a special law empowering the government of Bulgaria with absolute prerogatives of dealing with all the questions connected to the Jews, with the so-called Jewish question. And at the end of August 42, a special body, special anti-Jewish body was created, the so-called Commissariat for Jewish Affairs, that actually had the full power of dealing with everything what is connected to the Jews. And even more than that, as we see, Article 7 of this decree law that created also the Jewish the Commissariat for Jewish Affairs stated that the Jewish municipalities were responsible for the task of preparing the deportation of the Jewish population. And another article envisioned possible expulsion of Jews of Sofia, the biggest community in Bulgaria, to the provinces or outside the kingdom. So we can see that already there, the Bulgarian government began to consider the deportation of the Jews from the new territories first. We can see all different kinds of the anti-Jewish measures, of course, labeling Jewish houses, Jewish properties, Jewish businesses, etc., etc. And from 1942, the German authorities, the Third Reich, increased its pressure to Bulgaria to begin preparation for deportation of the Jews within its sphere of power, so inside the old borders and the new territories. And as early as October 42, two lines of communication intersected, the first one between the German Minister of Ponitaria in Sofia Bekele and the Minister of Interior, Petr Gabrowski, but also between the Bulgarian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and RSHA, the German State Security Office, to prepare these deportations, while the government and the court of the king closely followed the reactions of other German allies as Romania, Hungary, Italy, and to the German demands that their governments will manage the Jewish question. So an agreement was reached on January 21 in 43 between the Bulgarian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Theodor Dannecker, Eichmann's representatives to Bulgaria. And Dannecker had helped to prepare roundups and deportations already in France, so that he had some good experience, and was brought to Bulgaria to help organize anti-Jewish programs also there. On February 22, 1943, these two people, the Commissar for Jewish Affairs Belev and Dannecker, had signed an agreement to deport 20,000 Jews from the new Bulgarian territories of Thrace and Macedonia, with no reference to the old territories. The total number of Jews, though, in the occupied territories was much lower than this number, 20,000. And then the reference, if you can see, in two places, there are deleted texts. And it's exactly what is deleted is the new territories of Macedonia and Thrace. And these words were scratched out by hand on the agreement, and it still remains unclear who actually deleted it and when. And what is funny, in the last year, there were people in Bulgaria who even demanded graphological, criminological expertise of this agreement, pointing out that it's fake, etc., etc. So you can see that these are two examples, both of these registry books, one from Bitola, one from Kavala. The only ones that are preserved, both of them in the archives of Yad Vashem. And now we get to the deportations. What was agreed between Bulgarian and German representatives in February was implemented in March. So on 4th of March, the deportations began from northern Greece. Then on 11th of March, they again from what is today North Macedonia. And on 12th of March, Jews from the Serbian town of Pirot were rounded up, arrested, and subsequently they will be transported also together with the people from northern Greece. So Jews from northern Greece firstly were placed in tobacco warehouses in all the places they lived. I mean, most of the places, in the biggest places, just for a few days. And the same happened to the people from Macedonia. So people from Bitola were transported by trains to Skopje, where a big camp in the company called Monopol was organized by the Bulgarian authorities, and people were placed in, and they will stay there for almost 2 weeks. Until the last transport we'll see. And these are all pictures you see actually from Monopol. We don't have pictures from northern Greece photos, so I've put them as an example for all the transports. So between 5th and 10th of March, I will jump again from northern Greece to Macedonia and back. People from northern Greece were transported with the trains along the existing train lines. If you see from almost the Turkish border to the Bulgarian border by regular trains, then transported over the border with open cars. This one, it's not from there. We don't have a photo from there, unfortunately. So I just use it as an example to show you. No. I just took it as an example to show what kind of wagons they've used, open cars, and then transported to two temporary camps inside Bulgaria in the cities of Gorna Jumaya and Dupnica, where they were placed for almost 2 weeks as well. From there, after these two weeks, they were transported even further north through, so you can see they were traveling and they were transported through the whole territory of Bulgaria from south to north to the port of Lomb on the Danube River, from where they were taken by 4 boats from Lomb in Bulgaria to Vienna and transported again by trains to Treblinka. The same, more or less, happened to the Macedonian Jews from Bitola, Skopje, and Štip, who were placed first in a monopole. The difference was that they were transported entirely by trains. So they didn't pass through Bulgarian territory. They passed through the former Yugoslav territory straight to Vienna. And again, from Vienna, subsequently, they ended up in Treblinka. There were 3 transports from Skopje. The first one was on 22nd of March. The second one was on 25th, and the third one, last one, on 29th of March. So that was actually the last transport of Jews from Bulgarian-controlled territories in Greece and in Yugoslavia to Treblinka. And there is actually no one who entered these trains did not return. I mean, the last days was 29th of March, so end of March. So the first roundup and arrests were in northern Greece on 4th of March, and on 29th of March, at the end of the same month, the last transport from Skopje left. It took a few days for each transport to reach Treblinka, where all the people were actually exterminated upon arrival. So the only people who survived were people who managed to escape the roundups in, let's say, northern Greece, and in Macedonia, some people managed to escape to Albania before they were arrested, and some dozens of people were freed from the camp of Monopol in Skopje because they were foreign citizens or they were physicians or doctors. So these were the only people who survived. So that's why actually we don't have almost any information about what happened to these transports since they left. The only documentation we have is until they left. We have only very 2 reports on the deportation of the northern Greek Jews, because there were 4 boats, as I told you, and on 2 of the boats there were Bulgarian doctors, which traveled with them to Vienna, and we have their rather short reports, but we know more or less what happened. We don't know what happened on the other 2 boats, and we don't have any information what happened with the deportees from Vienna to Treblinka. In Treblinka, we only know that no one of them was accepted in the camp. They were all exterminated until the last person. So we don't have any information on the way, on the transport, etc., etc. That was briefly giving you the factor and the factology. What I want to say now is to see how the present day Bulgarian state actually takes these events. And there's a lot of the discussion in the last, let's say, of course, since the war, but in the last 2 decades, more or less, there's a lot of discussion on the involvement of the Bulgarian state in these events. Of course, on how much the Bulgarian responsibility should be. And we have to say that more or less the official position of the Bulgarian state was formulated and until today it's more or less based on a declaration that the Bulgarian parliament accepted in 10 years ago, 2013, on the occasion of 70th anniversary of the Saving Bulgarian Jews. So part of this declaration, rather long declaration that deals more, of course, with the salvation of the Bulgarian Jews, but it says, while objectively assessing the historical events, it cannot be denied today that 11,343 Jews were deported from northern Greece and the Kingdom of Yugoslavia at that time under German jurisdiction. Condemning this criminal act taken by the Hitler's command, we express our regret that it was not in the ability of the local Bulgarian administration, I'll come back to it, to stop it. Yes. So let's see, to break out a bit this position and the facts. So at the summit meeting of April 17th, I'm coming back to the map because there are 3 different terms that are used, and I want a bit to explain them, if I can, and maybe we'll discuss, which is occupation. Were these territories under Bulgarian occupation? Or maybe they were under Bulgarian administration, which is another term that was used, or they were annexed territories. And it was also very much in the other parts of Yugoslavia, where we saw annexation and areas of interest and protectorates, etc., etc. So in 41, a meeting between Bulgarian King Hitler and the German Minister of Foreign Affairs Ribbentrop and the Italian Minister of Foreign Affairs Ciano, Bulgaria was granted responsibility for administering most of Vardar Macedonia, northern Greece, and the Serbian region of Pirot. And unlike, as I said, the area of northern Dobruja, which was ceded to Bulgaria before the war, under international accepted treaty, so these territories were supposed, the status of these territories was supposed to be determined at the end of the war. But from April 41, what we see actually in reality, and until September, October 44, these regions were under Bulgarian military and administrative rule. So were they occupied territories? And to see that, I'm going to the Hague Convention from 1907, which Article 42 says the territory is considered occupied when it is actually placed under the authority of the hostile army. The occupation extends only to the territory where such authority has been established and can be exercised. And the conclusion, at least mine, from this article, this terminology, this convention, is that between 41 and 44, Bulgaria was indeed the occupying power in the so-called lands. So, occupational administration, because we already saw this term administration in the declaration of the Bulgarian parliament. And during the last 20 years, a new terminology has been created in order to defend the lack of complicity of the Bulgarian state in actions perpetrated by the Bulgarian administrative bodies, army and police in 43 in the deportation. So the term administered territories replaced the term occupied territories, which applied in 41 to the regions that temporarily became part of the kingdom. And indeed, the new lands were seized by the German army, but for the Reich, they were not an object of long-term territorial claims, but only an instrument of military or diplomatic influence on the states in the region and a source of certain economic benefits. And here, I would cite the Claudius Popov agreement that maybe people who are dealing with Greece know about it. It's an agreement between Bulgaria and Germany from April 41, the main purpose of which was to provide Germany with economic guarantees. And according to this agreement, Bulgaria assumed the debts of the former Greek and Yugoslav states and their respective national banks, which is actually a classic clause when assuming sovereign rights over a newly acquired territory. So the agreement actually did not challenge the Bulgarian claim, but on the contrary, it satisfied them, leaving their formulation for after the end of the conflict. And this is well understandable, as any annexation of territory, including these lands, and drawing of boundaries in the course of a war is conditional, provisional, and of internationally unrecognized nature prior to the final signing of a peace treaty. So despite episodic frictions with the Germans and the inevitably temporary nature of the new borders, Germany, in fact, tolerated the process of asserting Bulgarian authorities in them. And the Bulgarians' action were entirely aimed at eliminating any ambiguity in their status. The documents from the period that we have show how de facto Bulgarian sovereignty was asserted over the new lands. And in all the documents originating from Macedonia, Thrace, or Pirot area, we can see the Bulgarian state symbols and attributes, for example, seals of Bulgaria. And also the bureaucratic language quickly and permanently assumed that the new lands are in fact parts of Bulgarian kingdom. So according, and these are a few questions to see how this sovereignty can be seen through the prism of the Jewish question, of the anti-Jewish policy of the Bulgarian kingdom in these territories. So we have to see under what jurisdiction were the Jews in these new lands. And there are a few facts that I pointed out here, and you can read them, that could give us a hand, could help us answer these questions. So for example, after April 41, all the Bulgarian anti-Jewish legislation was applied in these territories, as I already said. The Jewish property in these lands, in these territories, was confiscated in favor of the Bulgarian state, both before, but also after the deportation of the whole Jewish population. So Jews were also subject to monthly registration in the local Bulgarian police departments. And prior to the deportation, these two books that we have an example actually also were made for the Bulgarian authorities. These two books are in Bulgarian, and they were filled in by Bulgarian clerks, probably. So Germany negotiated and concluded the agreement from February 41 on the deportation of the Jewish population in this area with the Bulgarian government. And the same Bulgarian government adopted 7 spatial decrees which regulated the process of the deportation. So we can see also that in the process of anti-Jewish measures and policy before the deportation, but also during the deportation, a long number, almost all the Bulgarian authorities and organizations and official organizations and institutions were involved in this. So we can cite the bank, the Central Bulgarian Bank, and ministries, all the ministries, the police, the army, the intelligence, the local administration was Bulgarian, and everything was coordinated by the Bulgarian Commissariat for Jewish Affairs. Another claim from the recent years, actually not that long ago, but I would say from the past few years, is that the Bulgarian state could not stop the deportations because the Jews in these new territories, new lands, were not Bulgarian citizens. So they said, okay, you can see 48,000 Jews in Bulgaria were saved. They were Bulgarian citizens. We couldn't do, and you remember the declaration of the parliament that says it was not in the ability of the local Bulgarian authorities to prevent the deportation. Why? Because they were not Bulgarian citizens and we had no power over them. But we have to ask, why were not they were not Bulgarian citizens? So the status of the Jews in the occupied lands was regulated in June 42 with these regulations on the citizenship that I said. And this document confirmed that citizenship cannot be granted to the Jews by referring to the provisions of the law of the protection of the nation that I also told you that banned Jews from becoming Bulgarian citizens. And maybe at that time, when the law for the protection of the nation was discussed in the parliament in December 40, before it was voted, this provision had been intended more to prevent recently arrived Central European Jews from becoming naturalized. But it is also very possible the German authorities pressured Bulgaria on this issue, not to grant the citizenship to the Jews. But it is very difficult to imagine that the Bulgarian leadership was unaware that by refusing to grant nationality, citizenship to Jews in the occupied territories, they were relinquishing any possibility of intervening on their behalf if it should later become necessary. And of course, the impact of this the June decree that stripped the Jews in Macedonian Thrace from the possibility of becoming Bulgarian citizens is well known. The new policies made Jews residing in these territories both legally and economically vulnerable. Legally, Jews in the newly annexed territories could no longer be considered Bulgarian nationals, an option that continued to be available actually to other Greek and Yugoslav citizens of non-Bulgarian origins until April 43. Why I say that? Because these people who were considered of Bulgarian origin were first and by, what do you call it, without discussion even, granted Bulgarian citizenships immediately. So the Jews were registered as either Yugoslav or Greek citizens, or in other words, citizens of state that no longer existed, at least in a legal sense. And I will conclude with two last slides. The question of the Bulgarian responsibility for the deportation, and after that, which was the initiative and which executed the process of deportation. of course. So there was yet another claim that the Bulgarian authorities did not have the sovereign power to refuse the deportation. So what some historians also, but many people in Bulgaria are saying, not only that the Jews didn't have citizenship, they were not Bulgarian citizens, so we couldn't do anything, but Bulgaria was just temporarily administering this territory, and the full power in it was of the Germans. So we couldn't do anything because actually it wasn't ours. It was the Germans who set the rules in this. But so we have to see what was the position of the Bulgarian state indeed. Was it a puppet state, as Croatia, for example, more or less, with a lot of influence for Germany or another country, Italy or another country? Was it an occupied state? So it was under foreign authority and influence and could not do things by its own will? Was it a satellite state? And the answer is it's not, because the Bulgarian state was recognized by the international community as a sovereign state. The state authorities were created without external intervention and were taking their own decisions. And the state territory was not occupied, the Bulgarian territory. And Bulgaria has signed an official international treaty by virtue of which it has joined the Axis in 1941. So was it the deportation a result of some direct coercion on the Bulgarian authorities? So in order to exclude the responsibility of the Bulgarian authorities, there must be targeted actions of Nazi Germany towards the Bulgarian state, which would constitute direct coercion, which is a use of force or a threat by force, and who would leave the Bulgarian authorities with no real choice but to deport the Jewish population. So therefore, the key question is whether the behavior of the Nazi Germany towards the Bulgarian authorities can qualify as such direct coercion. And we can see that the pressure exerted by Nazi Germany and Bulgaria to deport the Jews does not involve any use of military force or even a threat, a serious threat of force against the Bulgarian state. And German pressure was applied only through diplomacy and negotiation between two sovereign and allied states. So we have no evidence of direct German orders to deport the population from these territories, which were controlled by Bulgaria. And German troops also never occupied Bulgaria, which held some kind of unusual position in the pact by refusing to declare war in the Soviet Union, for example, exactly at the same time, or sent force to the Eastern Front. And really, I'm concluding with this. So Bulgarian anti-Jewish policies should be seen through the broader context of the Nazi final solution. They should be considered as connected to the schedule of regular roundups, deportations, extermination, etc., taking place in non-Bulgarian occupied zones in Greece and Yugoslavia. The prepared deportation of all Jews under Bulgarian rule is actually just a link of the decision taken at Wannsee. The Bulgarian political decision ripened finally when, in fulfillment of the plan of the Wannsee Conference, Germany came to the jury of the Balkans, and in particular that under Bulgarian jurisdiction. So in this perspective, the synchronization with the subordination ordinance in the new lands looks more like a concerted act than a coincidence. Bulgaria, that's my conclusion. Here, Bulgaria was not the initiator of the idea of deporting the Jews in the new land, but also it was planned for Bulgaria itself with the aim of exterminating them and probably without the external impulse, it would